There we go.
Here we go.
Back again.
Right. Back in gear. Today you are aware, Brown.
I'm aware, bro. That could be how we start the podcast, eh? Just
That
every
is
time.
it.
What are you today?
You are aware.
Well, algorithm. I'm aware, Brown. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Brown. It's
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Nice to
definitely
meet
like
you,
it's
Brown.
gone from bald brown to still bald brown. Definitely not
Yeah.
bald anymore. There's some hair showing up.
Oh, bro, sticking it up. I like it. I'm liking this.
Exactly.
It's feeling good. Feeling good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then it
Old
was
enough to
hungry,
shave.
Brown.
Yep.
Yeah, and now it's aware, Brown, and I think that's going to be like our first talking point, eh? With the whole
Yeah,
Ramadan
exactly.
and everything kind of going on.
That's
You
it,
were
man.
yeah, you kind of asked me last time about how it was, because when we did the last podcast, it was only a week ago, and it was
Yep.
the first day of fasting,
Mhm.
and I was talking about like the test and like the mental attitude and how we feel it. Like it's kind of a bit daunting. Like the first
Mm.
before you start, you kind of get a bit like jittery about it, and then you talk to your cousins and brothers and sisters and mom and whatever about how it's like we're about to be tested. But then you get into it, and what I found this year is this is the first year I've been home and fasted. Like I fasted for 3 years while I was working at UP living in London, and it's a very different thing because
Mm.
I mean, my routine then was 6 a.m. client, run through my day, and then try and find time in the middle of the day to sleep and then go back to the gym. So it's constantly on the move. You don't actually have time to stop and think about what you're doing.
Mm.
And in doing that, you're constantly on the move. You're not really thinking about resting too much. Maybe on the weekends, maybe whatever, you kind of slowing down a bit more. But right now, we're in obviously self isolation. We're in lockdown. I'm not working away. I'm home, and it's taken on a totally different spin where I've got a lot more time to sit and think about being hungry, sit and think about being thirsty, sit and think about having no energy through the day, and that's unveiling deeper levels of awareness where I have to
Yeah.
kind of just be more present in my mind if I want to get the same shit done.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't kind of lose myself in that like stream of emotion where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to, because I'm in a very comfortable environment. You know what I mean? I'm not in that rat race of London.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in that rat race of London. Like on it with these, man. On it with these.
Should have put it in a minute ago, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. You figured it out now, so that's gonna be quicker.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just it's different, bro. It's different in the sense that I'm in a place where I have to check myself. I have to like personally check myself because there's no external world around me anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's just me and my thoughts, and the thoughts that I have when I come home is I want to chill out and I want to eat some good food and I want to just relax. Like, and those are not in keeping with I want to push myself, I want to build a body, and I want to exert myself. You know what I mean? They just don't match up. But like it's a case that because this environment shines the light on the fact that I want to do those things. Now I'm having to fight out of those things in a very comfortable place. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's like I'm almost in like quicksand where if I let myself go down and if I let myself feel kind of relaxed and at ease too much, then that can really take grip because the tide is kind of pulling me that way. You know what I mean? I know that I've got goals right now. I'm still training hard. I'm still kind of trying to chase that stuff. I'm still trying to stay productive with clients, with learning, with self leveling up myself. And for me, if I fall into, I know that I've done this in the past. For instance, when I was like super overweight, was I would have those moments where I would just sit a lot, I would think a lot, and I would just kind of be sedentary and lose myself in just kind of being nothing, doing nothing, and then feel quite like, oh, what have I done today? It didn't really have any kind of effect on my life. You know what I mean? So this is great. This is why kind of that aware Brown moniker is there, because I'm like, okay, I see the challenge. I see what this year is gonna help me to level up with what the challenge is. Like I said last week, like I used the word humbleness in that Mike Tyson quote. I said, like, if you're not humble, life will visit humbleness upon you. But right now, if you're not aware, life will visit awareness upon you. You know what I mean? Like you best be aware, because if you're not aware of the the ease at which you can just fall off your routine, being in a comfortable environment, then you'll be a week behind and you won't even know it. You know what I mean? Then you're playing catch up, and that's never a good place to be.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's yeah, I like that, because it's, yeah, you're right. I've experienced that as well. It's like, especially like from the context of going into lockdown, and then there's this whole period where you're like, what the hell is going on? And in that, I kind of froze for about a week, 10 days or something, and then realizing that that could easily get out of hand, and you can just keep rolling. You can rolling that snowball instead of rolling the snowball, which is the one where you're doing the right stuff, building good momentum up, right? Yeah. And you have to be able to catch yourself doing that. So that's interesting that you say is like, it's completely opposite to what you're normally used to doing, and which is you can catch yourself doing this too much and end up in a bad place, but actually is kind of warranted right now. But also, so building the awareness around how to deal with this period effectively so that you can actually use it and come out of it on the other side still being productive, right?
100%. That's exactly the best way to put it. And like you said, like, because the circumstances have changed, my viewpoint is different. And but what I've got to do is I've got to learn to align regardless. And that is the biggest overarching thing. I mean, I'm fasting because of my own personal beliefs, but you're still being affected by this, even though, like, and then the overarching thing for the world is that we're all in this one thing together. This is the kind of unification of everything, of all of us in this one thing. We're all locked down. We're all kind of in this situation where we can't really do much, but are we still aligning? I mean, are we still kind of going through? Because in normal life, we would have been kind of going about our day and maybe keeping up with fitness goals and fitness dieting and kind of being on point with the things we want to be on point with. But now, like you said, we had that frozen, like, deer in the headlights moment. But then did we fight or did we flight? You know what I mean? We need to make sure that we continually check ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
a couple of days ago, it was just basically. It was essentially saying, here's an opportunity where we have to confront our mind, and a bunch of people have just gone, nah, fuck that, I'm baking bread. I'm going to learn how to bake bread from scratch. I'll do anything to avoid having to look at myself and my thoughts.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
And I was cracking up hard. I was like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, everybody's got their own kind of coping strategy, right? The one I always think about, the thing I'm always thinking about is, how are you going to come out of this on the other side better off? Like, are you going to be worse off? Are you going to be better off? Like, how you see the opportunity instead of just the struggle and just the problems that this presents. Because that was legit. It was hilarious, but it was also like, that's legit.
So funny.
Plenty of people would do that. I know, like, a friend of mine was just saying, like, hasn't had alcohol for a whole year, feels like a completely different, not just different, but better for it, like, in so many different ways. And it's like, but yeah, I've got a subset of friends who are dealing with this by basically just drinking away, right? It's like, I've got nothing else to do but drink away. And for me, it was like, how is that going to help you come out of it on the other side feeling better off, basically? It's just it's tricky. Right. It's learning about how to manage that kind of the hard shaft that you've got pushing you off your track, and how you're gonna come back even better.
Too right, man. My mind went to, like, Simpsons, where it's like, I am evil Homer.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like that. Like, oh, like, I have awareness here. I have this, like, this being of, like, oh, I can take this and make myself. It's, I am evil. Oh, and that's just playing in my head. Like, no, yeah, it's like, we don't need that. Just quiet this shit off. Let's go back to ourselves. You know what I mean? Get out of here.
That's great, man. Evil Homer is realigning you.
Yeah. There's like the other one where he's like, where he's picturing Flanders, and he's like, stupid, sexy Flanders.
Yeah. Nothing at all.
Yeah. So true, man. So
great,
true,
man.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, that was it. Nothing at all. That's funny shit, man. You were talking about, when I asked you about it earlier in the week, and you were like, you were saying it's about trying to stay in your routine, but adapting to what Ramadan presents. Like, just elaborate on that a little bit. What were you saying basically?
Yeah. So I think the routine that I know works well for me when I'm in full alignment with me, and I'm in a place where I'm moving forward, moving towards where I want to be. I'm training. I'm waking up early. I'm eating well. I am organizing my thoughts, like my journal, or my like things, like this shit. Like, you know what I mean? That's getting done all the time. So there is right. It's like it's that key. That's my path, right? That's my path, and that's personal to me. The external world can present anything it wants to, lockdown, Ramadan, or anything, but you've got to stay on your path. Like, you walk your path, regardless of where you are and what channel, what is being presented to you externally. You know what I mean? And that's what it is, bro. So I mean, right now I'm still. Some days I'm training twice a day. I'm eating well when I open my fast. I'm prioritizing hydration when I open my fast because I'm aware that I have to train the next day. I'm trying to sleep. I've taken me the week. The biggest loss for the week has been sleep, but that is if you check my Whoop scores, like last night I got 95% of my recovery. But I was only yeah, I was like, pow. I was only after a whole week of it being 30%, 25%, 22%, like proper in the pits.
Yeah,
and,
I was actually checking up during the week as well.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm interested. I was like 23%, 33% or something. I was like, yeah, it's happening, but 95. I haven't seen it today, so that's legit.
That's legit because I was aware that, you know what, I'm going to bed on a full stomach and I just feel like shit. I can't sleep. My body's doing like 10 things, trying to digest the food, trying to assimilate the food, trying to give me energy. I'm like, no, I'll turn the lights off. I'm going to sleep. Like this, it's trying to do that as well. And then all of a sudden 6 hours passes and it's like, okay, I didn't do any of those things well because I wasn't supposed to digest food right now. I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't because I was awake doing that. And again, that's just awareness of the processes running in the background. When we have to try and align, we have to kind of bear in mind all those other practices, right? I mean, we know this from being trainers. Like, I can't make like Susie, who works in like the computer department, like do back squats on day one because I have to bear in mind everything that's come before that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's the same way. Like, I know I want to align with the things that I want to align with because it makes me live my best life and move me forward. But if I'm looking at it and say, I'm going to try and shoehorn this in, I'm going to try and ram all the calories down, and then I'm going to try and sleep, and then I'm going to try and wake up, and I'm going to go and try and train, it doesn't work. But this first week has been that trial and error basis where I found that last night I went for a walk. As soon as I ate my food, I went for a walk, like got my food down, came back, prayed. After I prayed, I went and had another meal and then stayed out for a little bit longer and did some work. But while I did the work, I have a standing desk over here. I stood on that and I was like just working while I was standing up. And by the time the evening kind of rolled around, I was super chill. My food had digested. I'd been for a walk, so I cleared my mind. That also helped with the digestion of the food. And then I came back and I slept super well, trained. And then today I've trained once. After we finish this, I'll train again. And it's going forward. Like it's not been a struggle, you know what I mean? And then the best thing about it is that the training, I've kind of gone into the training sessions, whereas before I've been in that headspace where you have to take your pre-workout meal, then you have to take your intra-workout protein shake, and then you have to take your post-workout protein shake, and then you have to, and it's like decision fatigue, like in a way, because like you're splitting. If you have a finite amount of space in your head, you're splitting 5% for this and 1% for that, and 2% for that, and all of a sudden you're fragmenting the total package. Whereas right now, I get up, I go bathroom, then I go train. Like, there's no food going in, there's no water going in. The thought process is all about training. I read my book. I realize like where I need to align in terms of, okay, last session we worked on double jab right hand. Okay, cool. Right, well, my notes are detailed, so like I need to know how to keep my feet in position. I need to know how to slip my head to the left and all that stuff. Like I'm aligning straight away with those things. And because my mind is so focused on that, I'm not worried about the fact that I haven't had any food. I'm not worried about the fact that I haven't had any water. And it's just empowering, because now the training is getting better, because the 5% of my mind that I was using towards putting to those things is now being put towards these things. So this is getting deeper, and it kind of, I'm going on this kind of deep kind of spiral, but it's all about like the more you can focus on that one thing, the deeper you go on that one thing, the more sustenance you get from it. So it's like you can go deep with food and get super sustenance from food. You can go deep with meditation and get super sustenance from meditation. And the thing you've got to, I think, be aware of is that we get sustenance from a lot of different places. But when we take a lot of those things away, like food and water and rest, what are we left with? What other things sustain you and keep you aligned with your path? And for me, training is a massive part of that. So now I've allocated the efforts that I was putting towards food, water, rest to some degree toward training, and it's going better than ever. Like this is the most productive, like I'm gonna call it stand up, like in terms of striking and kicking and all that stuff that I've been this week, and I've been fasted the whole week. You know what I mean? Like that's the only way that makes sense in my mind is that I've allocated more of my thought process towards this, and I've kind of blocked out and left. I know that I'm not going to get sustenance from that. Not until 8 p.m., 8:30, 8:45 am I going to get sustenance from food. So through the day, it's not even on my mind. Like, I don't need to go to the bathroom because I'm not eating anything. I don't need to go to the kitchen because I'm not going to eat anything. I don't need to drink, so I don't need to take a piss. Like, everything is just like, I'm just right on it with where I need to be. You know what I mean? Like, work productivity has gone through the roof. I'm working with more clients than I was with last week. Everything's just aligned. Everything, and me kind of tracing those steps back is back to the name, like aware brown. Like, I feel way more understanding that, you know what, less is more, and that less in terms of my fasting, food going away, is cool, but it gives me more. As long as I can be aware of that more, I can really capitalize on it. And again, it only feeds back to your mental state being in a better place.
Yep.
Yeah, bro.
Man, so many good things.
I just went.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to unpack with that. Is like, first of all, like committing to 2 times a day training, which, you know, most people would think that's crazy in a period of scarcity, put it that way. The stuff about sustenance is big. I think that's super powerful, because that's true, man. It's not just what you physically sustain yourself with. How do you keep your energy up? How do you keep yourself going in life in general? Because of what you align yourself with. That's huge. Man.
Yeah, the first point. Yeah, big transformations. But the first point you made there, what was the first point? You said twice a day training. Yeah, training twice a day. So you can kind of flip that and say, like, I'm training twice a day. So yeah, in a place of, you said this, you said in a place of scarcity, but really I'm in a place of opportunity. I mean, like, scarcity, if my mind is in that fixed place to say that I'm fixated on that food being my only source of satiety, versus now I have time, and time is really, that's the win. That's the winner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in a fixed mindset to say, yeah, perfect. Love it. On the ball now. Oh, the mic went, bro.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I was like, I should have put them up. Where you said a few things as well. You even said something about walk your path no matter what. That's coming up. I have to put that up. we need to have somebody. We need to have, like, see, like, young Jamie. Young Jamie off the side. Just bring that up, Jamie.
Yeah, exactly. young whoever, just young man.
Yeah. Yeah, young Brown. That's what he's
Young Brown. We got young Brown coming. Young Brown, if you're out there, we need you. We need you.
That's it, man. That's it. Like, scarcity opportunity, right? Like, I can be in the fixed mindset and say that I'm scarce of food and water. So that I have to, again, align scarcity with my goal, with my path, right? So if I want to walk my path, then I've got to see the opportunity in that scarcity. And the opportunity in the scarcity is that I've got more time to train. So these 2 sessions a day, one of them is kind of a cardio-based session. One of them is a kind of a lifting / strength-based session. And the way I've kind of organized it is we'll do the cardio-based session first, like earlier on in the day. And because that's more energetic session, it leaves me with the endorphins for hours afterwards. Like I don't feel run down now. I've just burnt like 600 calories in that session. Like it's not a light session. I kind of that's a decent amount, right? Decent amount. And it's an hour and a bit. Like it's not always at crazy pace, but it's at a decent pace. Like we'll go for 3-minute clips at a time or 5-minute clips at a time, and that's good. But then, like I said, it leaves me with such a high afterwards that I've got shit to write in my book, things that I didn't do too well, things that I did good, and things that I need to work on for next time. And my mind is just whirring. And that, again, sustenance. Like I need that. I need that mental kind of exploration to keep me going. And this is only going to come on the back of me. Well, not only, but I'm using the circumstance right now to align with myself, and it's helping me. You know what I mean? I'm seeing the opportunity.
That's sick. So with your training as well, you're writing it down. You're making notes about what you're doing and what you felt like went well, what didn't go so well, and then kind of break it down. Okay, here's the briefing from that session. Then this is what I'm going to take into the next one. Yeah.
Exactly that. I mean, it gets to the point where, like, when I was in London working with Sylvie, it would be, okay, today we did snap down to single leg entry. We did arm drag to back take to the trip. You know what I mean? Or we did like inside trip, cover side position. Like, and then it's once I read it back, I can kind of almost re-engage with what we did. And the same thing here, because it's a lot more stand-up based. It's jab, step off, low kick. It's jab, step off the other way, outside low kick. And it's like simple movements, but I can really build a base on that. Because at the end of the day, like whether it be a boxing match or MMA match or a grappling match, it only takes one right hand or one jab or whatever to set anything else up. So the more I have understanding of these nuances, these building blocks, the better my game's in me. You know what I mean? And that's the benefit. And I think what I'm using this diary for, like we see like journals, and we like they're usually gratification and like things that you learn today and things that you and I do that as well. So like there'll be a page where it'll be today's training. The next bit will be, okay, my daily kind of log. I'm almost like recanting the day, and then it will be like in that section it'll be more of the gratification stuff. So you almost have everything that kind of aligns you, as opposed to just having your training log in one area and your like life stuff in one area. It's all you, right? So bring it all together. That's kind of I've just done that in this one book. Obviously I'm gonna run through the book pretty quickly, but I'd rather have it in one space and then kind of just carry that forward into the next one and the next one. And it just works really well for me, bro.
Yeah, wicked. Very cool. Because the other thing you said earlier was also about organizing your life, right? And just organization and stuff. And that, yeah, that's it. That's organizing yourself. I've been doing the same thing actually today before we started chatting. That's essentially what I've been doing, because I've been thinking to myself, there's a bunch of different things I've got circling around in my head. And in terms of making notes, it's like I've got a piece of paper over here. I've got a few pieces of paper just sitting there as well. And I'm like, everything's kind of all over the place a little bit at the moment. And I need to get that aligned as well. There was so I found it's a diary / journal online one called Penzu.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard about it.
No.
So so I just found it today, and it seems good because it's like, okay, you can journal in if you want, but you can also create multiple journals, which will essentially be your like you could have your training journal, you could have your, if you wanted to, your diet journal, you can have your gratitude journal, you can have your goals, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So and then for me it's like because I started getting antsy this week, and I think I told you, right, it was like I haven't read anything for a while. In terms of the stuff which is really like really important to me in the moment, and that's something that I really resonate with, because I've gone through a period of like starting to read books, and I do find them fascinating, but I think there's something about them where they're just not speaking to me in the current time.
And so I've get like 70 pages through and I just put it away and I just put it down and I don't get back to it. And I was like, what the hell's going on there? And I started thinking to myself, actually, part of it is because I'm reading something interesting, something I want to read, but it's not resonating with me right now. And so when I figured out what was going on with me right now, and on this big neuroscience kick as well, and then my thing is just to understand human behavior. I just love voraciously picking up information about that kind of thing. So I picked up 5 books. I just went to town, and and I got them, and I'm just super jacked and super excited about reading them. But the thing is I want to make sure I get a lot out of them as well, because in the past I can read something. There's a few books that I remember being influential to me, and they're from 6, 7, 8 years ago, even longer. Books like Bounce by Matthew Said and The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. Those were good books for me because they were essentially saying how the myth of talent and how it's about how hard you work and the process it takes to get good at a skill, essentially. And so I remember the overarching theme of it, and I remember it had a big effect on me, but there's bits of it that I want to remember, but I don't, and I don't have anywhere to go back to except for if I wanted to read the freaking book again. And so what I want to do is use that app, use that journaling place, because it's just what you said, having it all in that one place. Everything's organized, and you can just go to that tab, or go to that tab, go to that tab, go to that tab. And I'm actually going to start properly making some decent notes around the book, in that I've read this, I read this bit, and then put it down and then recall it, because now in terms of actually knowing what I'm talking about, knowing what really resonated. And recall is just the best way to make sure it's kind of sitting in my brain, and then just write down those bits that I recall, and if there's anything around that, then quickly go back into the book and be like, oh yeah, there was that bit. And I did that today with The Secret Life of the Mind. So I started reading that. That's sitting right here, this book. So
cool.
That's just basically what is it, how our brain thinks, feels, and decides. And that's it looks like straight away 10 pages in, it's super interesting. And it's by a neuroscientist as well, who's just basically talking about early on, first chapter's covering the origin of thought. How do we think, where does it come from, even as children, as babies. And I just wrote down a few things that resonate with me, so now that kind of sticks, and go and explore that. So having that organization around it, super helpful, man. Has already helped me. I feel like I've lifted a kind of weight off of my chest by organizing all this stuff, and just having a place where I can put it. And the reason I went online as well, because I love to write this kind of stuff, but like I said, you can I just get lost in papers, and it's I'll have too many journals or something lying around. And then whereas this is at the moment I have a thought, I can just go into my app and just quickly write it down, and it will be there on my desktop as well. So super useful to have that at hand.
I like it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, my mind goes to Jordan Peterson, we was talking before we came on about him a little bit, and his book, was it 12 rules for I've got it there, 12 rules for life. You heard of it? I'm a big fan of Peterson. It's I've seen a lot of his stuff, and I know a few of the guys reading his book as well. I haven't read his book because it's I feel like I know all the rules because of the amount of stuff I've watched and read about him. I'm with you. And then the first, I think the first rule of his book is clean your room, and that's what you're doing right now with your mind, right? You're decluttering it all and just organizing it into its relevant sections, and then you can visit those sections. And like you said, recall is super important. I think that's a big thing that you've touched on there, recall, and just doing it in a state of less clutter. And it's the same thing as it relates back to what we're saying about Ramadan, right? Life is now less cluttered for me. In a way I can look at it as, I'm hungry, but it's also less cluttered. I haven't got to do food yet. It's basically organizing my day in a way that now is food, now is not. So it's completely on off, right? And in terms of decluttering your life and having that now free time to see the opportunity, that's what you're doing right now. So you went through, what was it, thinking, feeling,
thinks, feels,
and thinks, feels, and decides. Yeah. So that's now the process that you can kind of go through. And I'm noticing this a lot with things working in threes. Like I'm working with that Jordan Shallows thing that I talked to you about last week. That'll be like mobility, stability, strength, and then like how kind of you can kind of apply it. Like you can kind of go through the original remedy, and in this case, it will kind of be like thinking and then experience and decide. Was that it again?
Think, feel, decide.
Think, feel, decide. Yeah. So the feel is kind of like putting the thinking into practice. What do you feel? Kind of moving it through your physiology, and then deciding is like just being it and doing it, and kind of the autonomous stage of it, right? And then that kind of links into what's it called? Like skill acquisition. I was reading about this, and that one is cognitive, associative, autonomous.
Right.
So similar thing to what you're saying there, right? So like thinking is like cognitive, and then associative is like feeling, and then deciding is like autonomous. You know what I mean? How they kind of layer on top of each other.
What's that model? Where did you pick that up? Is that from the training you're doing?
Yeah. So Jordan Shallows does his podcast, and he did a podcast with his co-host is like Jordan Jinta, and that's super cool. It's called RX''D Radio, and they had a guy on called Killian Hamilton, and I'll send you his Instagram, and his model for skill acquisition is cognitive, associative, and autonomous. And that's kind of like, so Jordan would talk about it on the course and say like it's his model is like mobility, stability, strength, and then you kind of superimpose them on each other in a way. It doesn't always like fit like a jigsaw puzzle, but you can see that mobility is kind of like exploring the body a little bit. That's kind of like cognitive. Associative is like the stability aspect, when you bring that newfound mobility / newfound range of motion into a movement, and then you test the waters, and then you make it autonomous, and then you test the waters, and they make it as a strength-based model. So kind of loosely fits. But I think the more ways in which the more angles with which you can approach this and see it with that perspective, where there's stages of this, and I think the one you're looking at there is the stages of thinking, which is once you know that, then you can really break down the mind, break down any kind of goal that you have, because it just makes sense. I mean, the way you think, the way you decide, the way you feel, and the way you decide is super powerful to know, man.
Yeah, that's cool. I'd like to find out more about the way that guy puts them on, like cognitive, associative, and autonomous. So, do you have like a high-level overview of what that essentially means on each level? So, when something is it basically you're trying. So, if you're trying to learn a skill from scratch, he's talking about it's got to be a cognitive process first, then associative, and then autonomous, or is it kind of like a Venn diagram?
I think it's the flow of what you described. So like 1 to the 2 to the 3, in the sense that you would like, so if I'm going to teach a jab, duck under the right hand, come back with my own right hand, right? So like you'd have to see it first, you'd have to look at it, and you have to kind of try and process it, and that's where your cognition is going to come into play. And you're going to try and understand it from that perspective, and then you kind of associating that cognition with the actual movement itself. And then once you're associated with movement, you can feel it like associate through your body. You know what I mean? Like, you know how much pressure to put on this. You know that when you slip off the center line, you're going to have to weight this side, and then you're going to have to kind of the timing aspect of coming back with your own right hand. That's more kind of associating it. And then as you've kind of built the cognitive into the associative, you can now be autonomous with your movement. Like, you don't need to think about it. It's there. It's automatic. You know what I mean? I think that's the way he would level it. Again, I don't know, because it's kind of new to me, but that it makes sense. When I break it down like that, I think it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, cool. Kind of skill, I think that's the way it would work. Like, I remember Sylvia teaching us how to do kettlebell swings like properly once. I've never done them properly. And he kind of, I remember him telling me, like, I think him being a good instructor and understanding us, he was like, I think I know that when you see somebody do something, you can copy it a little bit. And when I would kind of see him, I would see that, okay, his force is not going forwards, it's kind of going down into the ground. And you can see his kind of digging down into the ground. Okay, well, while I'm doing it, I think I'm pushing my hips too far forward. So that's me kind of cognitively trying to figure it out. And then when I get the kettlebell in my hands, I'm kind of weighting onto my toes too much. That means I'm kind of shifting my weight forward, whereas I need to shift my weight down into the ground. I need to shift back and then push down through the floor. And all of a sudden, okay, it's coming together. And now I'm like, I don't swing a kettlebell any other way. I know that it's down, it's down, it's down, it's down. And the kettlebells are just doing its thing because I know that I've associated it. I've picked it up at a cognitive level. I've associated with how I feel when I do it. And now it's autonomous. You know what I
mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, man. Super cool.
Yeah, okay. That's one way. Yeah, that's one way of putting the model of learning, acquiring a skill. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I haven't heard it put in that like 3-pronged way.
Yeah, super cool, man. They cover so many things on their podcast, and it's really interesting because like Jordan Shallows is the way he kind of talks and the way he teaches is very much I think how we talk and how we teach, because he does kind of go off the cuff and he'll tell a story about this and he'll tell a story about that and but his way of linking it all together I think is really cool. That speaks to me a lot when I want to learn from somebody. I can't just have somebody on like one keel, like just go through it. Okay, cool. I want you to dart and I want you to take my mind and like chuck it against the wall and be like, okay, right, go everywhere. You know what I mean? Rather than kind of like just having you on one level. It's just how I think it's just how I learn.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, it's like there's the facts of something, but we're human beings built to tell stories. You know, that's how we relate. So if you hear it in that story, it's going to stick a lot more. And I was talking about it with my housemate. It was ridiculous. Last Saturday, was it Sunday today, right? So yeah, it was a week ago. I sat down to have some lunch at like 1:30, and then we just started chatting. And then I looked at my phone, and it was 7:30. I was like, did we just talk for 6 hours? What the fuck just happened to the time? It was mad. And then I was like, all right, I better start getting dinner ready then, right? It was ridiculous. So basically, we lost ourselves in this warp for like 6 hours. We were just talking about all sorts of stuff. And it felt like a warp as well, because we were talking about things which we were just formulating. We were literally, the things we were talking about was challenging us to think about certain things that we maybe believe in or think about things in a different way. So we had to articulate the thoughts that we're formulating right in front of us, and that's like such a stimulating thing to do. That's why it's like it just felt like we just lost that time, right? And but one of the things we were just talking about was you have an abstract idea it's like the theory of it explains kind of everything, but then you're always looking for the example, and because we just have to have an example to kind of understand what that means. So that when you go back to the theory, you're like, oh yeah, of course that's what it is, because why would it be anything else? But it was never obvious until you had the example, right? So you have to be able to bounce around. You can't just keep talking in that theoretical manner the whole time and be like, yeah, sure, I mean, I get it, it's there, but I don't know what it means. And then you go back, it's like, let's put it into real life. That's where the story comes in handy. And then you're like, oh yeah, cool. And you go back to the theory and you're like, oh, that makes plenty of sense now. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. You know, it's like, you know, maths is a good example of that. You know, you could have an equation like, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And then you put it into an example, you go, oh yeah, okay, it makes sense. That's exactly why it should be that way. And because Sam was pointing out to me how basically the area of a circle was figured out, and we were just talking about it because he goes, it has so many implications and ramifications for how you're taught at school and what it means to be actually learning something. Because in school you're just told, you know, it's pi r squared. You know, that's the area of the circle. But if you're told how they actually ended up getting there, it leaves room. Instead of just being somebody who regurgitates information, you turn into somebody who figures out how to create something new from models that already exist, right? So it was basically, essentially like, I'm going to screw this up, but I've got a very, very high level overview of how it works. But it's essentially, didn't know how to do the area of a circle, but they figured out that, you know, if we do this with it, we can make it look like something else that we know about, i.e. a square, a rectangle. So it's like, you know, you can I think it's something like, here's the area of here's a circle. Imagine it's full of like an infinite number of circles inside it, right? And then when you extrapolate it out, if you flatten out the circle, it basically looks like a rectangle. You know, it's like the width and the length. And then it's like, well, we know what the area of that is going to be. So then let's plot that on a graph, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. And now we've got the area of a circle that we can work out. It's something along those lines. And then he was just making the point that he was somebody who's like, you know, he's very creative. So he wants to express some creativity in whatever domain that he's involved in. And with maths, he was like, I enjoyed it, but then I just thought there was no room for like creativity and like figuring stuff out in that kind of way, because it's just what you were taught at school. It was just, you're taught to kind of like regurgitate stuff, as opposed to actually learn the origins of, you know, how you could work out a problem properly. And he goes, because there was that lack of like creativity that he felt was imposed in mathematics. He's like, I just kind of done away with it after a while. I just stopped caring about it as much. But like, you know, looking back after knowing this, is like, holy shit, if this is what, like, you know, what it's really supposed to be about, then I feel like I've kind of been shortchanged by learning it, by not learning the origins of this stuff at school. And it just means that I wasn't able to appreciate it for what it is as well, and also and just like, you know, essentially like how it shapes you as an individual going forward. It's like a tiny point in time, but if you're just being told, like, if we use it as an example, it's like, you know, you're being told this is the area of a circle, just accept it and then use that to essentially pass an exam, versus this is how we got here. Can you now apply that principle to something else? You're a much better human being for the second way than you are for the first way, right? And how that influences your appreciation for not just that, but for everything, because you're like, okay, I can take that principle and apply that to the rest of my life. Whereas if all I do is regurgitate information the rest of my life, that's not like it's not conducive to living your best life, as you said, right?
It's true, bro. It's true. That's so powerful. There's so many things I can do with that. But it's like the first thing that came to mind was like the process.
The process. Exactly. You're not in love with the process.
Yeah.
Some people just want to score.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's so that's so legit. Like,
yeah.
And it's so necessary. You know what I mean? It's empowerment. Absolute empowerment. It's like, I remember reading The Obstacle is the Way, holiday book, and he talks about it there in the book. In there, he talks about this and there. He's like, the story he tells. He's like, there was a guy called, I'm going to paraphrase this, but anyway, guy wants to be like somebody else, and the other guy who he wants to be like is a really influential playwright, I think. And he works in Congress, and he's really high in politics. And so anyway, one day this guy goes to see him, and he takes a friend with him. And the friend says, like, you can't be like him, because like you can't even read and write. Like you can't even read and write. Like there's no way you can be like that guy. And the guy who he wants to be like is on stage, and he hears him say this, and he shouts out to the crowd, and he holds up a page. And the page has an A on it, has a letter A. And he says, see that kid? That's the letter A. And he's like, and then it goes back to the narration. And he says, and the narration is Ryan Holiday saying that what he'd just been gifted was the process. He'd been gifted the building blocks that he could then go away and use to apply, learn the alphabet, then learn how to speak, learn how to write, learn how to kind of carry on. And it kind of tells his story. Within 1 year, he was in college, in school, learning. The next year, he had a job there teaching. The year after that, he had a job in Congress, actually doing what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? So he'd been gifted the process. And then this is what you were talking about, where you just have that surface level knowledge that you can regurgitate. Really, that's no good for no one, because that now you're just a puppet. You know what I mean? You're just kind of being pulled on strings by this arbitrary piece of information based upon what somebody else has figured out. Whereas you could be gifted the process and go run with that any way you want. And these people kind of run with it to figure out the area of a circle, use one process to figure out something else. And we do that with people, right? We do that with okay, tell me about your goals, but really I need to know about your life. I need to know about this. I need to show you how it all ties in, so I can now tell you about yourself, like literally tell you about yourself, and then go away and apply it to your life. And let's figure this out, not just for you, but for your kid, for your parent, for your partner, for everything. You know what I mean? That's the key to all this stuff, bro. It's so powerful, and we're kind of, it leads me back onto what we're doing with the gym now. Like that gym, I can envision it, what it's going to be like really clearly, because I know that it's just empowerment to the tits. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
everything about it will just
bro.
Like just like awareness, and because it has to be, you know what I mean? Because the opposite end of the spectrum.
It's truth, man.
It's so true.
It gets you jacked.
Yeah, the opposite end of the spectrum is pure gym. Yeah, but because pure gym just give you a chest press and say you carry on. Like there's no empowerment, there's no understanding, and these like gyms that pop up, and there's so many gyms in Leicester. There is so many gyms. I've never seen a place more densely populated with gyms, like more than London. Like,
whoa,
so many. Like
that's crazy, bro.
All of them do sweet fuck all for people, right? Because they just don't know how to move people forward, because they don't know how to gift them the process. And this is what happens when you have like businessmen or businessmen and women in the fitness industry, because really there's not your place. Like you need to leave, like you need to go do something else for a living, because you don't get it. Like to move people forward, you need to empower them, you need to teach them about the whole process. Like you can't just leave out, like we said last week, the book of grind, right? And all the pages in line, right? No missing pages. Yeah, bro, it's so necessary, super necessary, dog.
We've literally said that every week, man.
Yeah,
I got to give a shout out to Street Jesus there.
Yeah, bro.
Man, that's true, man. You said it with such passion as well. It's legit. It's gift them the process. That's such a beautiful thing. It's it is what it is. Ultimately, man, look, we're showing people that you don't have any limits. The only limits you have are the ones that you're placing on yourself, right? But you just don't know how to break through those limits that you've got. And this is what we're here for. And then you gather those tools, you learn those tools that will help you break those limits, and then you have them for the rest of your life. That is the key thing, is not just what are you doing about it right now, it's how is it going to serve you for the rest of your life. And you can always do that. And that's so empowerment to the tits, bro. That's where we're taking this. And just saying that as well gets me jacked up to here.
Yeah. That's what I say, because you say Jackson tits, empowerment to the tits, right? And that's it.
It's that scene from The Big Short, where what's his face, where Ryan Gosling's character just goes, "I'm jacked to the tits," and it's just a perfect line. It was hilariously delivered as well. So that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like when you boys, like, Sam sent me a picture yesterday, right, and of my dad. But it got me so pumped. There were a few things that he did that just got me pumped yesterday, right? One of them was Sam sent me a picture of my dad wearing the weight vest and walking up and down our garden. And he sent me a message saying also Dad's been doing farmers carries with the kettlebells. I was like, that is fucking amazing. I was so happy because, but the thing that was beautiful about it was, my brother didn't say anything too. Like my mum was also like, I think I'll maybe go for a walk with your dad and wear have a backpack with a little bit of weight in it.
Amazing.
And he was like, yeah, please go for it. It was just something happened inside me where I just felt like unbelievable, kind of like an energy pouring out of me kind of thing. It was just because what it was it came from them having seen Sam training every day at home. So the fact that they could see him doing this, and the fact that he was there, and he's not making a big deal about it, he's just consistently doing the thing that he knows is good for him. And then my parents have gone and said, you know what, we're going to do that as well because we see you training and it's good for you. That's empowerment, man. That's what that is. It's just, you never realize how much of an influence you can actually have when you're just going about doing a thing consistently and and just living it basically, right? And that's what he's doing. And then my parents were just like, yeah, we want to do that as well. So my brother sent me a picture. Like, I don't even think my dad knows that he took this picture of him, because it was like dad's walking away from him. And he just took that picture. I was like, this is so beautiful. I just loved hearing that. I was super happy. And so it's just super inspiring, man. That got me jacked to the tits.
I love it, bro. Love it. That makes me feel warm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, completely.
I've not ever met or heard of your parents apart from in this podcast, but I get that, because like I get that with my mom here. Like she'll ask me questions, and then she's just moving forward in so many different ways, and through the medium of me understanding it, I can then relate it to her. And like Sam is the kind of guy that his natural way is very warm and very open, right? So you can basically learn from him. You can have a nice conversation with him, and that's the barrier to entry. I mean, that's the thing, that some people will have a very like closed off mentality. So they won't really have anything about them you want to aspire towards. Whereas you meet someone like Sam, someone like yourself, and you want to be like this example that you're seeing in front of you. You know what I mean? And it's manifesting in a way that your parents are wanting to be that. And that's so empowering. That's like, we believe that, you know what, like our parents are gifts to us, right? They lead us in so many different ways. And we've talked about this in the past, that how grateful we are for them. But now we're able to give back to them. That's everything, man. That's everything. So not just in like a financial way, which we always want to, but in a way that like this will help you climb the stairs. Like you'll feel stronger when you carry the shopping. Like just things that they didn't have time to think about. Now we can give back with what we've been doing now like our whole lives. You know what I mean? That's I'm literally got goosebumps right now, bro.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's the thing. That's the power of it as well. It's like, you know, somebody who's never met them before is feeling the benefit from that, and it's going to help them out. It's going to help, like, because you use that feeling to help you drive forward as well. And it's big, man. It's big. It's true, because it's like it's that freaking circle of life, man. It's just they're giving us inspiration. Like even during this period, I think like my mom's amazing. She's just like figuring out stuff to do every day, and like she made a pancake recipe yesterday that she's never made before. She's been finding out like she's like gets all creative and quite arty, so she ends up like she's basically figured out how to put portraits onto wood. Like I was like, I don't even know what this is. I was like, I didn't even know this is a thing, right? And she's figured that kind of stuff out. And then my dad also he's getting himself like he's just doing more of like what he wants to do. They're spending more time doing some gardening and working on the allotment and stuff. And it's just but seeing that is also inspiring as well. So it doesn't matter that, you know, we want to be able to give to them, but they're still giving to us in this other way, not just through the support that they have for us, but it's this other way. It's like, damn, man, even in this period where everybody's losing their shit or just getting depressed and down and out about, okay, it's 6 weeks now of lockdown. My mom's like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And my dad's just like in his chilled way. Yeah, in his like super chilled and his super centered way, he just keeps on going. And just doing his thing and just, you know, being happy. And then, you know, like I said, I had that conversation with him as well when we were talking about depression in Indian households or Asian households. And then I asked my dad about it, and he gave me some really like good deep insights. So it's like there's so much more that we still haven't tapped into, because, you know, they've just got so much more to offer still. And that's what I found beautiful about it. It's at that stage now where we can cycle that what we can do for each other. It's not just like it's not just us relying on them. It's the other way around as well. Now we can do it both ways.
That's it. So true, man. So true. There's so many ways we can go with that. But you mentioned before the podcast, we talked about like mortality a little bit, and how I expressed this a couple of weeks ago. We were just chatting, like kind of WhatsApp or whatever, and it was really my mum who kind of spiked this when we were talking about this. Well, she didn't spike it, but she was the catalyst that made me kind of think about it. And it's one of those things like when we're told that, like when I'm reading through Obstacles is the Way, I'm going to cite this again. One of the chapters talks about it's called Meditate on Your Mortality. And it cites about how Shakespeare, towards the end of his life, said that every third thought that we have should be about our end. Like, keep it that fresh in your mind, that every third thought that you have should be about your end. And basically the thought is, it should motivate you to want to be more right now. And that's kind of the first exposure I really had to thinking that way, is that, like, we're not here for we're always going to be here for a time frame. Like, there's an end, you know what I mean? It doesn't just like continually go forward. And so that was kind of the first exposure I had to that, was just think on the fact that you're not going to get a million days. Like, it's going to come to an end, right? And linking back to what we were just talking about with our parents, my mum has this routine where she goes and sees my granddad most days, and she'll go and take food for him, and some days I'll go and some days she'll go, and whatever, back and forth. And she gets up, like, we're sitting together, and she gets up and she says, "Okay, bye, I'm going now," and she goes. And I just thought to myself, like, when she goes, as in when she like dies and passes away, that's exactly how it will happen. Like, it won't be, it could be in any which way or whatever, but when somebody, like, in a hospital or whatever, who's close to you, whatever, goes, they just go. Like, there's not like a big crescendo. Maybe there'll be illness, or maybe there'll be a period of time, but really it's that moment where they just go. And it just hit me like a really, the same way that I think you seeing that picture of your dad pacing up and down would have hit you in a happy way. That didn't hit me in a sad way, but it hit me in a realization way that, you know what, this is how infinite, this is how quickly life can just leave. And I don't know why my thought process went there, but I'm glad it did, because it just gave me a greater appreciation of now the fact that I had that time with her to sit down with her. I don't know, like, she's in the next room. She could be gone right now. I don't know, right? You know, that's the reality of it. I know that you're alive. Nobody else in the world is right now to me. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that I know. But really, what it means is that when I crack that door open and she sat there, I'll have that appreciation in the moment that, you know what, great. Like, I get to see you a bit more. I get to just be in your presence. I get to kind of be around you. And like you just said, take that goodness from being close to you and give whatever I can give, as long as I'm kind of in touch with that part of my brain. I can give you goodness, I can receive it. And that was really the only kind of the encapsulation of that thought on mortality, was that it's so finite, like, we don't know. So really, if we be in the moment for having, in the moment for receiving, and really try and squeeze that sponge for all it's worth, to quote my friend TJ, and really just take it for everything, because you know what, it's not, nothing's promised. You know what I mean? Nothing is promised, and the fact that we have it right now, great. I mean, just kind of, that was the thought. That was the real the experience.
Yeah, amazing, man. That's because the thing that's interesting to me is it's like it can make people go one of two ways, which is, broadly speaking, which is, in your case, where you're appreciating everything about life, whereas the other way is like, okay, well, it's going to end anyway, so what's the point? You know, is that nihilistic aspect of it? Is how did you end up getting to a point where you thought about it the way you do? Was the other way ever an option for you?
Fuck no.
Yeah.
Fuck no. I just think that you know, I've experienced a few people with that kind of mentality, and I just think it's, I see it, but then I think it's a very shrinking way of being. Like, we hear this a lot, like our existence in the world is like one speck of dust in an infinitesimal cosmos of existence, and you're just one little bit. But really, like, if we have people like Muhammad Ali, or we have people like Mahatma Gandhi, and we have people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Mike Tyson and Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, like, you know what, you have these people that just change the world, right? Why am I any different? Like, why am I any different? Like, you know what I mean? If they've got a mom just like me, they've got mates just like you, like, what is it? The only thing that limits it is just the reps that I've put in. And if I want to put in reps, like you said at the start of this, like, which one of those are you feeding? The wolves analogy, right? Which are we feeding those? I mean nothing. My life is just going to end one day, so I may as well just sit here and eat Cheetos and play PlayStation. Like, I can do that, or can I actually just want a bit of a different thing for myself? And it's like we can do more, we can be more, because we do more and be more because we are more aware, then we should be more and do more. You know what I mean? Rather than kind of being as aware as we are, to say, oh, at the end, like at the peak of your awareness, you realize that, oh, we're gonna die one day, so we just think, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna die, so I may as well just like blow it all off to the wind. Like, it doesn't mean anything anyway. Or you can say, look, I'm gonna die one day, so I may as well use this time. And it's back to that first conversation we had today, which is alignment, right? In the sense that you got to align with who you really want to be at the end of the day. Like, I know I want to, in some way, affect my world, her world, just my little world, whether it be my clients, my family. As a result, I have an opportunity. I have a stage now to affect the world. And I for instance, I watch like Jamie Oliver sometimes. I think some of the work that he does is really cool, because he tries for school kids. He tries for people in just kids. Like, I'll keep it about that, right? Like, he tries to make their lives a bit healthier, taking away energy drinks, taking away this stuff. And I think the work he's doing is really, really underappreciated. So me learning about this stuff, me learning about how to access, I want to be on a stage where I can work with him one day and be like, okay, right, Jamie, let's think about this, and let's think about like helping people in this sense. You know what I mean? And we're part of a Asian community where it's notorious that people piss around with their diet and they don't really give a shit. And it's like, okay, right, well, let's work on this. You know what I mean? We've got examples in your parents who really train hard and work hard, and my mom who does the same thing. Well, why can't we kind of collaborate, and all of a sudden now you have changed the world? You know what I mean? That's as simple as it is. Like, through, what's that, 7 degrees of separation, you know everybody in the planet, right? We can do it. You know what I mean? Like, all that takes is not it's like the perspective thing. You can see yourself as a tiny speck of dust, or you can see yourself as the tiny speck of dust that will change every other tiny speck of dust. And that's it. Like, it all happened because you were alive. Like, life is happening because of you, right? Not to you. Yeah, that's kind of when we start going along that rigmarole, I think it just steamrolls the other argument to just nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, is you choose to see the power in it as opposed to the ineffective part. I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's you could look at it as like you're this infinitesimal part of this cosmos, but at the same time, that's a beautiful thing as well, because the cosmos, you look up at it, you look out at it, and you're just like, whoa, you know, this is mind blowing.
Yep.
So either way, it's like you could take that, which is, you know, insignificant speck of dust, but there's just like with most things in life, it's a balance, right? It's like there's the other side to it as well, which is, but there's still value in who you are and what you're doing, and just for the fact that you're here. Because I think we talked about it before as well, where, you know, Peterson put it eloquently, is like you're a node in a network. You know, it's like each person probably know 1,000 people in their life, and then that just means you're 2 people removed from affecting 1 million. You know, there's 1 million people. So it's so what you choose to do with yourself has an impact, regardless of whether you believe it or not. And you can just you can break it down into the smallest examples. You know, it's like when you show up for a client versus when you don't show up for a client. I.e., when I say don't show up, is on a day where you could feel like complete crap and you're not giving your energy, or you've just got something else going on in your mind and you just couldn't find a way to clear your head. And, you know, you go into the session and you don't treat it with the kind of, I guess, this like how sacred it should be, in a way. Is like you're doing something for someone else, basically, you know, and you do it because it benefits you as well. You get something out of doing that for someone. And but someday you just can't see the wood for the trees, and then, you know, the outcome of that session. And when, you know, you talked about it last time as well, is like, can you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day? And that could be one of those days where you can't, and the impact it had on the other person is clear, is because you couldn't show up, and they didn't feel like they got the service that they wanted or needed. And even if they don't realize it as well sometimes, but you know it, you know from your own point of view that that's not how it was supposed to be, because you didn't show up. So it's like you can just take it to the smallest degree, and I choose to see it the way you choose to see it as well. Because ultimately it is a choice. We can't just be like, we're nihilistic and hopeless, or we have a lot to offer, and let's try and live in that space. Because if you go the other way, then you're no good to yourself, and you're no good to the people around you. So you might as well choose to see it the other way, where you do yourself some good.
Too right, bro. Too right. Yeah. And that's just awareness around that fact. That word keeps coming up, right? It's just you meditating on that understanding that you can change everything, versus you doing the bad reps where you're thinking, oh, you know what, I'm nothing. Like what I can do, I can get away with kind of being a bit lax today. And like you could use the example of showing up for a client, which I think is a great tie-in for both of us. But really, you can use any example. You can say like, oh, I didn't stick to my diet today, or maybe that was the day where you could have inspired somebody else to stick to their diet. Maybe that was the day where you could have had the weight scale move to a place where, oh, okay, shit, like I can do this. Like that's that day. And it's like the training session that you don't want to go to is the one you need to go to. You know what I mean? Like all of this points in one direction. I think if we fail to see that, then it's only us, and like it's not only us. Sorry, I was about to say it's only us that it affects. No, it's not. It's everything that it affects. And I think this kind of ties back into, it's not like me and you are me and you, but it's a we, aren't we? We're like it's our place. The planet is our place, right? So it's like if collective consciousness, you're not pulling your weight, you're letting the side down. You know what I mean? You're legit letting the side down. So it's like, come on, like it's like you said about, you tied this to Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes, right? Like that you're getting you're getting 8 out of 10 every week because he's pulling his weight regardless. And that like now society is at a place where it's so low. Like you watch a movie, it'll be a shit movie. You'll go to like buy food from a restaurant, it's a shit restaurant. It's like, no, everyone's like music is not like people will talk about, obviously I'm being kind of like negative right now, but people will talk about how like they don't make them how they used to make them, or like cars, or they don't like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's accepted a lower standard of being, and that's come for whatever reason, right? Maybe there's just more of us, and like everyone's kind of pumping out the same information or whatever. There's so many ways of thinking about it, but really we can not accept that, and we can actually level up. And when we do level up, and we know we do this for a living, like and when you use that example for not showing up for that client, I've done that before. I've felt like crap and said, look, sorry, I can't make it in today. And really, it's like a doctor, you making a session with a doctor, and then there's no secretary for us to go between. There's no there's no referral. I can't just send her to somebody else and say, okay, do the program or whatever, because it's not quite the same. But that's why it's so important for us to be on our game as much as we can be, because we can kind of safeguard along it. And I suppose this is a way we could train that client and not have to show up on that day, is do it through a video session or whatever. But yeah, man, I think it's super interesting and super necessary for us to just be on our game with all this stuff, man. Because the alternative is very very it's quite, I think that's the alternative is basically how we've got where we are now, where we think that we're not getting the value from people, we're not kind of getting the full effect of what people can really do, is because they kind of duck that responsibility. And I don't think you can do that. I think like tying it back to mortality, you don't get 2 goes. Like as far as we know, you don't get 2 goes, right? So just like you got to make it go the first time, right? Yeah,
man. Yeah, that's that point about responsibility is a big one.
Yeah, man.
I think so. How do you get yourself to be in your game state? So you've talked about like, okay, if I'm doing these things, I'm in alignment. And does that mean that it feels very natural for you to show up like that, or do you still have like a process to get yourself into a headspace to do your best?
No, I think now doing your best is we've done the thinking, right? So back to that skill acquisition thing, we've done the thinking behind it. We've done we know what that thinking relates to. We know it relates to. So we've done the thinking in the sense that if I think like this, if I think negative thoughts, I feel kind of shitty. If I foster, oh, I'm sad about bullshit, then I feel in a certain way. But when I do it the right way, when I align the right way, okay, right, well, I know where I want to be, right? Then we associate when we start to do it in our daily lives, whether it be just with ourselves, and it feels a certain way, and then we can do it with other people, and all of a sudden it's like, this is how I show up every day. You know what I mean? I remember saying to one of my cousins, Bilal, right? I remember I said to him, I don't know what we were talking about. I think we were talking about girls or something, and he was just saying that, you know what, I don't know. He was saying it's really important to find somebody who you kind of align with, and I was like, yeah, totally legit. And he was like, what would you do if you didn't have that kind of connection? And I said to him, I was like, it made me think of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It made me think of, you know, Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix movie, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
He says in that, he's like, all I have is negative thoughts, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all I have is aware conversations. Like, I don't have those bullshit conversations. You know what I mean?
Flip it the other way.
Yeah. That's all I have. Like, I remember hearing it and I'm thinking, what is the only thing I only have? It's like, I only have good chats. Like, I only have those good chats. You know what I mean? Like, whether it be with TJ, with yourself, with Sam, with Mom, with anybody, right? I will, like, move it to where I know we should both be here. Like, you've started this conversation about being negative and being all over the place, whether it be a client, whether it be a boss, or whether it be anybody just in the world. I know that my progress, I'm a human just like you're a human, but am I learning anything from you right now? No, but I can teach you a shit ton about yourself, I think, if I just kind of move the direction of the conversation here. You know what I mean? So we're going to align with where I think we should be. And it's never turned around. Well, I've obviously learned things from other people, but it's only in that moniker where we've slowed down, we've understood each other, we've taken stock, we've broken the ice. But then it's like, okay, how do we move forward now? We move forward by aligning with these things. And what I'm talking about really is what we do for clients, right? We do it for ourselves first. We figure it out. We have an interest in it. We do it for ourselves, then we do it for our clients. And like you said, is this something that I need to think about? No, like, you don't need to think about it. I know, because that's just who you are. It's how you show up every day.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, bro.
Feel the power in that.
Yeah, bro. I feel like it's flowing.
It's flowing, man. I'm going to see you go Super Saiyan on the screen.
Yeah. What's the other one you sent me last time with the what is it, Southward Bound?
Oh, Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound and Down. Sorry, I messed that up big time. He's like, I feel it in my blood.
That's it, man.
Yeah, bro.
Purple, blue hue. Such a good show, man. I recommend it. Just get in on that. It's so funny. It's ludicrous, but it's funny, and it's legit. It's so good. But man, no, that's I felt the power of that, man. I feel the power is just, it is a process. It is building habits. You know, it is the building that habit to do that, because, you know, we've talked about it. I think it pretty much is coming up every time, you know, just leveling up your baseline every time. Yeah. So just the idea of, you're here, what skills do you need to develop to get yourself to here? And then when you're here, it's almost like there's no way you're going back down there. You know, It's just, you don't, like, we talked about it as well, where I was like, I physically do not recognize myself from like 6 years ago.
Yeah,
there was a picture, that picture that showed up on my memories somewhere, and I was like, I don't even remember looking like that. You know, let alone like what, like, just, it was crazy. I was like, how have I ever looked like that? And it was just basically me being out of shape, and it wasn't like terrible or anything like that. It's just, that's the weakest that I looked to myself, basically, and I don't remember it. And then comparing it to now, and I'm like, that's 6 years ago. I've literally reversed how it should be. Like, you know, I should be looking like I do now when in 6 years ago. But it's just, as soon as I saw that, I was like, there is no way in hell that's happening again. It's just not going to happen. It's just, I don't recognize it. I don't remember it. And my level of my life is just at a stage where it just wouldn't, you know. It's not even like it's a bad thing. It's just, if I ever slip back there, it just basically means, like, you know, I've probably fallen apart or something like that. And and if somebody's going to see this, they're not going to look at it and be like, what are you talking about? You know, there's nothing really wrong with you here. It's like, no, but it's everything, like that it represents, the change that it represents. It's not like I'm looking at that and going, oh, that was awful, that was a bad period or anything like that. It's nothing, not at all. I just don't remember being that way. And so it's just upping the baseline and just feeling like you just can't take it back to that level. But it's about that consistent action and getting yourself to that new baseline, and that's what it is. So it just sounds like you've been putting the reps in for time to be like, I'm going to align with these values that I have, and nothing's going to deviate me from that. And then so you end up showing up the best version of yourself each time, and you just feel damn good. It's a great place to be. I feel I'm definitely like using this period of time to get much clearer and like really define all that stuff, or like what those core values are for me. Like I've always known, but I've never expressed, or I've never kept them at the forefront of my mind. And I realized by doing that, and like even when I go for a run, a few times what I'll do is I'll just have this thought in my head of, this is the human being that I am, and this is the human being that I want to become. And like in a way, like they're both the same thing, because you always have that power within you, right, to be whoever the hell you want to be. So you're already there, you just haven't expressed it yet. That's the way I choose to look at it. So it's not like you could be in a place where, this is another interesting thing that came out of a conversation with my housemate, which was, if you're striving for a goal, does that mean you are incomplete, inadequate right now? And that's a good question to ask. But for me, I was like, I don't see it that way. First of all, I'm changing my relationship with goals, because I've not really had a good relationship with goals in my past, right? It's just been like, I've never been able to reward the process. I've never been able to reward the achievement. And therefore I never really set any goals, because I was just like, it was never for me. It was like, it felt more like an external drive. So I just have a terrible relationship with achieving goals, or setting goals and achieving them. So now it's like, I'm drastically changing how I view it and how I think about it. And a lot of that has to do with what I'm learning about the neuroscience of essentially goal setting and life and stuff like that. And that's really speaking to me in a way which allows me to express myself in a better way. So it's like I have a much better understanding of what it means and why we behave as humans as the way we do. And so I'm going to, and that's forcing me, not forcing me, but I'm looking, I was like, oh, wow, okay, setting a goal and achieving it doesn't have to be such a horrifying thing. It doesn't have to be something which sucks the soul out of me and sucks the life out of me, because you've and so what I choose to see is like, you already have that power within you. You just got to express it. And so it doesn't mean that you have a level of incompleteness. It's just you're fulfilling your potential. You're working towards fulfilling your potential. So that's kind of where I'm at in this period, which is defining that a hell of a lot more. Is like, and so when I go for a run, I find myself every now and then during the run, I'll just I have this sentence that I use, and it's like, yeah, okay, I feel like a better human being now, and even propels me to have a better run as well, because it's just that feed forward mechanism as well. It's just like it just keeps pushing you to in both ways, and yeah, so that's a process that that's one of the things I've decided to do during this period, is work on that mental side of things, so I have a clearer picture of who I am, where I am, and what I want to achieve, which is also an expression of who I am, basically. It doesn't have to be an arduous process. And then actually earlier on, one of the things you were saying got me thinking is, or rather with Ramadan, with lockdown, I was just thinking, I just had the view of a sensory deprivation tank in my head, like a float tank.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the reason we go into them, for anybody who uses a float tank, is you're in there for 60 minutes. You're in buoyancy in water, salt water, which makes you buoyant, and is at body temperature, so you don't really feel your surroundings, and it's in the dark. So the idea is you completely deprive your senses of anything. So the only thing you're left with is your mind. And I've done it a few times as well. Had a great experience with them, where I left, and physically there was that whole looseness and lightness that I felt, and then mentally there were a couple of occasions where it was like, oh, there was something that just went off there. And I feel like this is like a a long duration toned down version of that, I guess, because that was just a thought that came to me as you were talking about having all these outside things imposed on us. But the beauty is, it is like sensory deprivation. We have to we are avoiding we're forcefully have to avoid all these inputs into our system. We can't go out as much as we do. We pretty much don't. There's no such thing right now. There's no such thing as restaurants and clubs and pubs and bars and going out to markets and stuff like that. So there's no real sensory input, which could be distracting in that way. I mean, sure, there's going to be people who are spending more time on internet, social media, and everything like that, and that's probably on the rise. But one way of looking at it is like you're kind of in this zone where you have to look at your mind. It's like you have to turn to within to get your satisfaction, to get your sense of feeling of completeness, and rather than seeking it from outside, because we've had a lot of our stuff that we do taken away from us. And I guess that's why it goes back to the baking bread meme, right? It's like, nah, I'm not looking there. I'm not going there. I'm just going to focus on making bread from scratch, because that's I don't want to address that shit. But that's the thought I had. It just kind of came to me, which is like, it's like a bit of a sensory deprivation tank in a way, where you just got nothing. You're exposed to nothing else apart from what's right in front of you and yourself. And there's a lot of epiphanies that could come from that if you let it.
Too right, bro. Too right. Yeah, there's so many things I can kind of jump off of. But yeah, it's a great analogy to use. I've not tried them myself, but I've always, like, I think I heard about it on Joe Rogan. I saw it on Simpsons first time I saw it. Like, that episode that Lisa and Homer go to it, and she ends up having a crazy deep trip, and Homer's one gets like taken and like he's in it the whole time, and he gets like,
I remember that.
Remember?
Yeah, he goes across the country.
Yeah. Something mad happens, right? That was the first time I ever saw them. But yeah, you're totally right, bro. You're totally right in that making that connection, because like I said, like regular life just is gone. You know what I mean? Regular life is kind of gone, and that it just leaves you with your thoughts. But you've got to be, again, like we always talk about, you've got to be willing to be left with your thoughts. You know what I mean? You've got to be kind of understanding that right now and this is uncomfortable. I think this was uncomfortable for myself. I can say this first and foremost. I definitely think that people can relate to this. Is that less is not less, you know what I mean? Like, less is sometimes so much more, right? And for instance, like me and TJ will work on training, and his style of training is different to mine, because he's lighter than I am, and he's very, very explosive, very, very kind of he can move much more dynamically than I can, right? And so I'll look at him training, and he has this like Tyson-esque style, where he can roll one way, roll the other way, step in, step out, and it's very, very dynamic, you know. And to deal with it from a sparring standpoint, fuck me, it's hard, right? But I can try and emulate that, or I can not hit the mark. And I can kind of do it, and I can kind of work with that. But really, what he kind of instilled in me was, you are very good at jab and move. So jab and move. Like, I'm that Lennox Lewis and he's that Mike Tyson. That's the way we kind of look at ourselves, right? And I was looking at it initially, and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to be Lennox. I want to be Tyson. You know what I mean? I want to be that kind of bobbing, weaving, kind of like crazy madman, like pulling people's heads off. Like, I want to be that guy. But really, what he was trying to do was, he was trying to show me that I should really form a base where I am and play to my strengths, and then move forward, right? And this it's hit home so hard. And you know what? Like, we're of this persuasion where when someone teaches us something, we're so grateful, right? And this is like, TJ, he knows, because we've expressed it, and obviously like we've kind of progressed with training, but it's really changed my outlook on that so much, because it's given me a base from which I can push forward. And this is what people don't have, is they don't have they never get that kind of that love from someone to say, do this is your strength, be here. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, don't worry about being like me, because you'll be like me, but you've got to really work on this first, right? And his awareness in that sense, is being a good teacher that he is, being a good instructor, being a good personal trainer that he is, he could see that what I really need is this. You know, I mean, he was able to kind of like distill away all the bullshit and say, okay, right, you want to do this, cool, but you'll gain awareness for this by doing this, by building momentum, by building good reps in this thing that you can do right now. See that you're doing those things, right? And I feel like a lot of people don't ever experience that. That's why I feel like I'm so happy and blessed to be in the space that I am, is that they won't ever have that arm around the shoulder to say, listen, like, you want to do this.
Sorry.
You got it. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Like, they won't ever have that arm around the shoulders to say, look, you want to do this, but cool, that's the goal. That's fine. Now let's see where we are right now. Let's see what we have to work with right now. And that's the key with a lot of this. Like you touched on this earlier, like, am I incomplete because I haven't achieved the goal? You know, you can see that in so many different ways, but the true way in which I choose to see it is that you are just at the beginning stages of already achieving the goal. You know what I mean? Like if you said to me, do a handstand, and I did a proper shit handstand, that's my version of a handstand, right? That's me doing a handstand, but to my level of awareness. Now I have to go away and I have to apply the skill model of learning, like associate, straightening my body out and pushing through my hands and then aligning myself and then balancing and then having the strength to actually hold it and maintain it. I have to do those processes, cool. But right now, it doesn't mean I can't do a handstand. It just means I can't do that handstand. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that I'm a failure or I'm like, this is the mentality that I've kind of been in the past. And I see people and I see clients. And yesterday I was training a client of mine, Maria, and we were going through like rotation-based thoracic spine movements. And she was like, I'm so shit at these. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you're just not used to doing them. Like, you're just doing them your way. Now I'm here to teach you how to maybe think about this and think about that. And by the end of the session, you'll be doing it better. So it's like, either you can see it like I was shit and now I'm less shit, or you can just be like, I am always learning. So let's just in line with taking your mental state and using all of it in a productive way. Let's just lose this shit. Let's just lose it. And let's just focus all of it on being like, I am where I am, and let's move forward. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That's all we have to think about, because the more we incorporate, oh shit, I can't do this. You're just feeding that beast. You're feeding those bad reps, right? And those bad reps don't help you. They don't help. If you had to teach it to somebody else, if I put a kid in front of her tomorrow, like she teaches for a living, and I said to her, Maria, teach this kid, and the kid's going to constantly say, you know, I'm so bad, I hate myself, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, you wouldn't have that. So don't have it for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that we can't be about it. If we're gonna go forward and teach people about it, we can't ever be about it, because like we're the source for them to move forward. So we can't do it. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is, man. That's just the way that I really resonate with that hard. That you don't ever need to worry about the end product. You need to be cool, formulate the goal. From that goal will change as you go forward, but don't get lost in feeling like you're not anything right now. You just need to foster what that is. Like, whether it be you want to be a better cricket player, whether you want to be a better baker, well, it doesn't matter, right? Just be where you're at right now, be you, and then work forward from there, knowing that you can achieve anything.
100%. Oh man,
I feel the energy today, bro. It's the fasting, man. It's the fasting. I'm aligning.
You are on fire. I can feel the passion today, man.
Yeah, bro. I feel good. Like you said at the start, right? You said like the more of these we do, the better they are. Like, and this just feels right. You know what I mean? The first time we did this, I felt like jittery the whole time. I literally felt like shaky the whole time I was speaking, but it was just like a bit of a nervous, oh, let me just say something to fill this silence. But now it's like, it's just getting more and more aligned. And I think TJ says this, I say this quite a lot, is he says like, it's about the reps, isn't it? It's just about the reps, regardless of what we're talking about, whether it be, I'll tell him to go away and study something, and he'll be like, how long should I do it for? It's like, just do it. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And then I'll ask him, like, how long shall I practice my jab, slip to the right hand side, jab, overhand right? He'd be like, just do it. Just do the reps. Just carry on doing it. You'll know when it feels right. And when it feels right is when you catch it and it's like, oh shit, I did that. Like, next time you're in a conversation and you're the person being like, don't be negative. Like, it's good to be positive. Like, it's good to just be like, accept yourself where you are right now. Not to say that you don't want to not achieve things. Of course you want to achieve things. You want to be better than you are now. But accept the fact that you're here right now, and then that's how do we move forward from here? I mean, when you're that person, you know that shit, the reps are working. Oh crap, like this stuff is actually good for me. You know what I mean? That's how it kind of comes full circle, I guess.
Yeah, completely, man. You know, it reminded me of. Do you remember when I messaged you? I was doing my rehab homework, and something just wasn't clicking.
Yeah.
And I was fucking vexed. I was like, God damn, man. That was so basically. That was me being like, it's my daily process. You know, I'm doing some level of physical care every single day, and it changes how much I'm going to do based on how I'm feeling. It's like, did I sleep well? Did I push myself hard the day before? If the answer is yes to the second one and no to the first one, it's going to take me a lot longer to get into a good physical state of being, right? And I've been doing it long enough to know that I can just feel it. I just know. And the whole way I do the thing is just how, like, kind of TJ expressed it to you, is like, you'll know it when you feel it. Like, you just do it. Don't worry about thinking if it should be 10 minutes or half an hour. Just do it. So I kind of do go into it with an idea of, all right, I want to start doing something by this time. So I want to spend the next 10 minutes on this bit and then 20 minutes on that bit. But it just doesn't always go that way. And on this particular day, I was just like struggling. I was like, and this is what was really irritating about it as well, because I had a whole, I was like, it was in the evening. So it was like, so what I did was, before I started, I can't remember exactly, but it was basically, I'm going to put some sweet potato in the oven. I've got my steak ready, right? So I'm already seasoned it up, and I'm just waiting for it to get to room temperature. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby. It was, oh man, I was so jacked. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to train. I'm going to do my rehab. I'm going to train, and I'll be eating by 7:30. And that's beautiful. My evening is set. I'm just going to feel so content. It got to 7:30, and I hadn't even done my rehab. I hadn't finished my rehab bit, right? Because I was like, I'm just not in the zone. I'm just not producing. I'm not doing. I'm not getting to where I want to be. So I was like, I was doing it. Basically, essentially, what I want to see is, can I feel my my body kicking in? Can I feel my core state? Can I feel my core stability? Can I feel the sensory input is translating into good motor control, which is translating into good posture, which is going to translate into me being a lot more efficient during my movements during the training session, and then also I'm going to be stronger as well while I do it, and I'm going to prevent myself from getting hurt, and I'm also going to increase my chances of having a more productive session. So when all that is in place, that's basically what's going to happen. And I was thinking it's going to take me 10 minutes to 30 minutes tops. I was doing it for an hour, right? And I was in the zone, and I was just getting pissed. I was like, this isn't fucking working. What the hell's going on? And instead of being like upset about it, I just fucking drove home with it. I was just like, no, I'm not going to stop until I feel that feeling I'm supposed to feel. I know what it feels like. And because the other thing is, if I moved into the training session without having gone through that and completed my rehab properly, then I just call it rehab. It's just basically prep work, It's like, there's like a couple of things in my body that I'm always working on, but it's not anything that's going to hold me back. But I know how my body will feel if I'm working well and efficiently. And I just wasn't getting that feeling. And so if I got into that training session, I would have been upset that I didn't get my body where it needs to be. It's like, I'm basically not respecting my body. That's what it would have felt like. And I was also getting antsy, because it's like, I'm supposed to eat dinner by this time, so I don't feel like I'm stuffed and full by the time bedtime comes around. And there was so many things that were just pissing me off about the whole scenario. And I was like, this is what, I was like, no, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. And I just drove it home, and I just made it happen. And then an hour later, I was like, oh my God, I can feel it. I can feel my body doing what it's supposed to do. And it came from a place of anger, right? So there was a whole, afterwards, there was like, okay, there was so many like mixed emotions. It was such a hilarious thing. I was like, there was like a microcosm of like what life is like. It was like this whole thing of, I've got this thing that I need to achieve, and I've got a process for achieving it, but for some reason the process isn't working, so that's pissing me off, and it's making me angry. And then instead of trying to find compassion within myself, it's like, no, this is just where my body's at. I just stayed angry and I used it to get me to where I needed to be. And then so at the end of it, there's this whole like thing I've got going on, which is, all right, well, now I kind of feel guilty for being angry at myself. Should I have approached it with more compassion? You know, it's like, it is my body, it's telling me what I need to hear, but it was just so much going on. But then I also felt very accomplished as well. As like I just carried on going until I made it happen. So it's just like, you know, it's just the small things in life. So it's like I carried on going until I made it happen. Yeah. And I made it happen, so I felt really, really good about that. And then I smashed out a really good training session, and I smashed out dinner, which was freaking delicious. You know, it's like got that steak on that iron skillet and just just bam. And then, but the only thing was, I finished eating at like 9:30 in the evening, right?
Oh shit.
So for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be stuffed, but everything else ended up working out okay. So there was still like pride in doing the thing really well, and making sure I got to the place where I needed to and respected my body. But then I was also like, I feel really shameful that I did it from an angry place. But there's also, you can't, it's like, it's a learning process, you know? It's just like, sometimes I just realized in that moment, is like, okay, I maybe haven't developed the capacity well enough to shift into compassion when that needs to happen, because I always find, and I feel it as well, when something's done out of a place of love, it's just better than when it's done out of a place of anger. But sometimes you just, you can't shift. You just have to use it and then drive it forward. And that's basically what I did. And then I came to a realization that, you know what, it's okay. It's fine. It's just, it is what it is. But, and I've learned something about myself there as well, like big time, about how I'm handling the situation where something's not going well. And then it also ties into, you know, what I'm learning about achieving and the process, and rewarding the process, and rewarding the end outcome. Because I think what I was doing there, I wasn't necessarily rewarding the process. I couldn't really see it. You know, I was just kind of lost in that anger.
Haze, yeah.
Exactly. So it was just like, I was just in that red mist, and I was like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I couldn't reward the process, or I was being too stubborn. I think that's probably it as well. Like, you know, there's the idea of being too stubborn as well. He's like, no, I'm not going to see the beauty in this right now. Fuck that. so instead, I was like just struggling with it instead. And so it was just a lesson in, okay, I need to develop that skill better to be able to switch my mode. And but also it was contentment in finding that as well. So ultimately it was like, that was a good place to I need to go through that. It was a good place to be, to understand how I deal with a situation which I'm finding challenging, and it's not based, and it's basically, here's my expectation and I'm down here, and that difference is making me feel pissed off. And so instead of being like, okay, this is how I handled it in this situation, and I know that now, but if there's that difference, it's just what you said, which is there's no that is your version of your of you achieving your goal already. You're already on the state. You're already walking towards. You're already on the path towards it. So don't be upset about it. Don't be pissed about it. But you can only learn that if you build that awareness around how you dealt with it. And then I felt like I got a lot in that 1 hour. I learned so much, you know. And it's just little things. It's just about life, basically. But if coming from doing this process of how I get myself into good shape for training, and so I've just taken that and been like, that was actually a great place to be. So there's no guilt around it. There's no shame around the fact that I was angry instead of being compassionate about it. It is what it was, and I'm better for having gone through that, because I know that I'll be better equipped to shift my mindset when I need to. So it was this super powerful 1 hour of just fucking, I'm going to breathe properly. Okay, I'm going to make this happen.
kind of have visions of like you, like 300 tonight. We're gonna die in hell.
Dude, that's how I felt. I was like, I've got this steak, all right, tonight, ready for breakfast. That's how I felt. I was like, I'm gonna earn this steak. That's how I felt. And when I couldn't get there, I was getting so upset.
That's it, man. That's good. That's good. I think there's so many things that come into my mind right now, but it's like you have these powers, right? You have these powers of like persistence, and anger is definitely a power that you can draw on sometimes. And you said like you have that place of love, but it's what came to mind was there's a song by Hoosier, which is like I think it's artisanal lullaby or something. I can't. And what the lyric reads, you never tame your demons, you just keep them on a leash. Right, so you don't ever want to like, you don't ever want to lose the anger, you don't ever want to lose the passion, the love, the fire, you don't ever want to lose the compassion or the empathy, but you want to keep it on a leash to the stage where I can use this when I want to use. I can let that rope slip a little bit, and I can use it. You know what I mean? And that's a perfect example there of you using anger to get you where you needed to be. Like I don't know if you watch Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I used to back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Big, bro! I love it. I love that shit, man. Me and my cousin, we still watch it, right? And there's like Vegeta and Goku, right?
Yeah,
and Vegeta operates from a place of like pride and like anger and aggression, and Goku is like hope and like just you get there in the end. Don't worry about it. And so you need both, right? You can't just be happy-go-lucky Goku every day, but you can't just be angry like fire Vegeta every day. You need the fire and ice, right? You need both of those two. And they'd play off each other so well because like as soon as you went angry, you went compassionate. You were like, oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah. I'm sorry, mind. Like, I didn't want to burn you up like that. Like you had those demons, but you used them in the right element, right? And when you needed compassion, you came to your rescue, right? So you kind of had your own back, but you almost need to slip to know how to carry yourself, right? You need to go into that sometimes to be reminded that, you know what, it's cool. Like I can have these moments of falling, but I used it in a right way, and I used it in like in an aware way, and I didn't hurt anybody. I just kind of like figured it out for myself. So yeah, I think that's you now. Like you said, that hour is so much growth, and you don't. This is another thing, right? I want to segue to, like, you don't get to pick the lessons that you learn in life. You just get to like react to them in the way that you react to them, and then you have to learn from those lessons, right? Like
responding and reacting.
That's it. That's exactly
so responding is more proactive. Reacting is just reacting. It's just how you choose to view it, man. That felt like therapy. What you just said to me just felt like therapy. That made me feel good, actually. I was like, yes. There's like the right elements of using it. And it's true, but it's again like I love the way Peterson put it, which was you should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
Yeah.
Which is the two sides, right? Is you can't just you can't just be a nice guy right here the whole time, and you can't just be a prick the whole time over here as well. You got to learn to put the two together, and that's where your power's at, and that's true. And that actually, what you said made me feel better about that whole scenario as well, because it's just using it in the right kind of, using it in the right scenario, using it in the right elements where it powered you instead of it being harmful. And that's legit.
Just helps me a lot, man. Helps me a lot, because I resonate with that hard. Like sometimes you have that rage that helps you lift the weights, but then you don't need that rage when you come home and see your family. You know, you need to put that aside. And like being kind of forming my own like what's the word? When you're a kid, right, and you get pissed off, you cry, and you cry angrily. Like you're just emotion. When you're a child, you're just emotion. The only thing you don't have any control over it. And one thing I used to do a lot when I was younger was cry. Like I would cry because I'd get pissed off, or I'd cry because I was angry, and then I would try and hit somebody, or I would try and like kick someone. I was notorious when I was little for kicking people. Like I don't know why, but like people, right? My dad would tell me stories about this, and he would laugh his ass off because I would be at like a family wedding or a gathering or something. I'd be like 3 years old, like I'm just a child, like I'm literally a child, right? And someone would piss me off, and I would just hoof them as hard as I wanted. Like I didn't give no shit, and then I would run and I would go and find my dad, right? And that would be my go-to, and I had obviously like we're talking about it. You don't have any control. Wait, I'm waiting for what's coming here. You're getting kicked. Right? That was like it didn't matter who it was. You could have been an elder. You could have been a kid. You could have been grandma. I didn't know how to like control that. I was like, I'll
Be a grandma.
like do you know what? That was me as a child. Like I didn't have any. There was no filter. That was my version of no filter. Like you're getting kicked, right? Like,
That's amazing.
yeah. So like, and then as you're a child, you don't have any mechanisms to kind of keep that in a box, right? But then as an adult, you can be like, okay, it's time to engage kicking kid, like engage that fire, like put that in, just go ham. Like now is the time, right? Or then there's other times where you have to engage something else. But it's like it's the whole process, right? It's like kind of knowing yourself, and then I can look back, like you can look back on that experience and be like, oh, okay, this is what I actually did, and I can look back on me as a kid being like, I had infinite amount of rage. Okay, so now I can use that to a good way, or I can use that in a bad way. Like me using it in a good way, it's like, okay, go to the gym, get that rage out, get those weights up. Like, and I did that. That was my teens, my early 20s. And when that stopped, okay, I can use that in other ways now. You know what I mean? Like it turns into jits, and it turns into sparring, and it turns into like being energetic for myself. You know what I mean? There's so many ways to transform the energy. Like we know, like and the energy can't be destroyed. It can only be like shaped and kind of pushed into a new direction. That's what we learn to harness that, right? But we have to be aware of it at the start. So it's so cool, man. So powerful.
That's wicked, man. You've been a monster all this time, and you've learned to harness it.
Yeah, bro. There's so much more to go. Yeah, I know there is.
Yeah,
and there's so much like it's just in the moment. You have to be able to express it. You know what I mean? And that's self-actualization. You know, when you can do that, then you win. You know what I mean? That's the win. That's like there's money. Like you can put an arbitrary number and say this currency gives you value, but really your being expressed is the only value, right? Like that's the shit. That's the deep shit. You know what I mean? Like that's when you feel really, really so aligned that you're like, okay, this is me. You know what I mean? This is me to a T, right? And I feel you feel good. And that's why lifting weights for me feels so good, and why being energetic, training twice a day. Back to that what we said at the start. Like it's not loss. It's just me doing reps in alignment. Like I feel a certain way because of it, and then don't get me wrong, I feel good when I eat food too, but there's a finite stop to that. But I don't ever not feel good when I work out. You know what I mean? That doesn't ever end. You know what I mean? That's the same for TJ. Like I know for him, and he'll be on Defo. We'll do a podcast with him one day, and we tell you when he tells you his story, you'll see why we align so well, because his like life is so intrinsically tied to activity and doing and being and getting the reps that's why like he will feel so good having done those things. You know what I mean? People will feel that they're very tied to being an academic. They're very tied to being whatever. But I think before we're anything, we're children, and children want to express themselves. You know what I mean? And the closer you are to that expression in whatever way it comes, the more you're going to have that sustenance. You know what I mean? The more you feel like proper aligned, proper good, bro.
100%.
Yeah, bro.
I think that's a good place to leave it.
Yeah, man. Too right. That was powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could have carried on for sure, but we'll save it for the next one.
Definitely, bro.
Definitely. That's a sick place to leave it. I like that.
That was a hard hit, man. Yeah. Didn't even feel. I'm looking at the time now. 1:47. I don't know where that. It doesn't. I don't know when it comes. Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Where it comes from. We go through the first 20 minutes. And then it just carries on going. And then like, look up, it's an hour now. Oh, okay. Carry on going. Oh, shit, an hour 45. Like, what? Where did
Exactly, man. That's what I'm saying. There's like that 6-hour conversation I have with my housemate is just super interesting. It's just, you just find your flow, and then you hit the ground, and you're thinking about things, you're formulating ideas. And that's the beauty of it all, man. I love, it's just the deeper the conversations go, the more you learn about yourself and about life, right? So the more you can do that, there's a hell of a lot more to life.
We, like you said, we're just getting started, bro.
We just get started.
Getting started. Yeah.
Exactly. We're expanding our sphere. That's what we're doing.
Bro, it's getting deeper. It's getting easier to access. Hey, it's like that. Yeah. It's like that skill that you couldn't do at the start. Oh, okay, I can't quite express myself. I'm feeling a bit jittery while I'm doing it, but now it's like it's off the dome.
That's quality. No, that's what it feels like. It's just everything's a process. Nothing ever feels comfortable in the beginning, and you just get through it. My mum sent me some food on Thursday, right? So because my bro, he gets a delivery done every Thursday, and the guy's quarrying stuff out, and so he tells him to just do a drop off at my place as well. Gives me a little bit of prep. But my mum was calling me on the Wednesday. I was like, "What do you want? Do you want some chicken? Do you want some rice? Do you want some dal?" I was like, "Mom, this is amazing. Number one, thank you so much." And but because just concerned that I wasn't, if I couldn't get my hands on any food early, like a few weeks ago I couldn't, but now it's all completely fine. And but along with the food, she sends a little postcard as well, which is just so beautiful. It's so nice. And in it, she was just like asking me how things are going, and then she just wrote, "Things are difficult before they get easy." And I was like, "Mom, inspiration, like you continue to inspire me." And this is the kind of shit, I've said this before as well, is like early in life, just didn't, you just don't appreciate your parents as much as you probably should. They're like, should, I don't like that word. It's just how much you actually could. And then the older you get and the more you appreciate that, they've got life experience, and they've got a hell of a lot more to them. They freaking raised you. First of all, it's like, that's the biggest project that anyone will ever undertake, is raising a kid. And so the fact that she sent me that, I just wrote that one little sentence. I was like, that's so beautiful, because it just makes me feel at ease. And I was just like super grateful for that card as well. So I was like, a big shout out to you, Mum. That was really helpful. And that's what it is. This is just a process. It's just a process of things being difficult and odd and weird in the beginning, until you find, like, you just keep continually finding your feet.
That's so true, bro. So true. And then, twice in this podcast, then when you just said the toughest thing to do is raise a kid, and once before, I can't remember the once before, but you basically given me, like, subconsciously given me a very good feeling in saying that what we do, we move people forward, right? We kind of help people develop. And yes, we don't. Sometimes we get a bit of a clean slate. Somebody's not had much experience. Cool, we can layer on top. Sometimes we have to erase a lot, and we have to kind of help them move past maybe bad technique or bad movement or bad thought processes, right? But when it comes to raising a kid, and this is something that probably will happen in the next couple of years, both of us, maybe, well, I don't know, right? But when that happens, it's like we've had these reps, so you just feel at ease. You just genuinely feel at ease. You feel like, okay, you know what? We got this. As much as those guys had a hard time, they figured it out. And we're from them, you know what I mean? So we should take strength from that. But then really every day we're about this self-improvement kind of game, and then that's the qualification that this kind of gives you. You know what I mean? Like we can work with ourselves first, cool. But then we work with people, and then now it's okay. Have your own people. Work with those people. You know what I mean? Like have your own little kickers. Like teach them how to kick people. That's it. That's the goal, man. Kick everyone. Kick everyone.
No wonder you've got a resonance with striking, man.
Yeah, bro. It's from day one. You know what I mean? Like that. Did Sam send you that video? I don't know if it's a friend of Sam's or a friend of yours or cousin or something with a little kid, and he hulks out.
Man, yes. That video gets me so jacked. It's
right. That's that kid needs to be fostered. Like make that kid feel like he's the Hulk and watch him be the damn Hulk. You know what I mean? Like
he just owns the world.
Cool. Yeah.
It's the energy, the boundless energy as well. I mean, he's got the Hulk fists on. He's like 5 years old. He's got the Hulk fists on, and he's pounding the floor, going Hulk smash. And he keeps going. It's like you can't even do battle ropes for 30 seconds, and this kid's doing that for like a minute and keeps on going. That was just a minute of the video.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. And I just loved it. It got me so jacked. I was like, harness that power. Man.
That's it, man. That's it. He don't know any other way to be. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's his like in his life microcosm. He's only had like 5 minutes of existence, right? But those 5 minutes, he's done 10,000 reps at Hulk smash. So he is Hulk that's gonna smash, right? Yeah. It's like the rest of us have done all these shitty reps or being like I don't know, overweight or being sad or being miserable, right? No, we're doing reps right now. You got to be like aware of that, right? And this kid, because he's had so little time, he's done those finite reps. He's so good at just being that kid that smashes. That's it. That's the one, bro. That's the one.
Go smash, right?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Nothing but
Love
a
it.
peanut. Nothing
Hey,
but
buddy.
a peanut.
Yeah, bro. What you got now? You gonna go? What are you up to now?
Oh man, it's dinner time basically.
Go get it,
Gonna
man.
hang out with my housemates and munch some dinner.
Love it. Love it. I'm gonna go train. Get it in, man.
Oh, respect.
Upper body session now. Just quick,
Yeah.
quick. 8 sets. No, 12 sets. I'm done. So get it in, bro. Get it in.
Wicked,
Come.
man.
Gee, that
All
was
right.
wicked, man.
Good times ahead. Always a pleasure, brother. We'll chat again for the next one.
For sure, bro. For sure. I'm gonna start sharing this on my Instagram as well. I'm gonna go back and look at the pieces you've sent and start putting them up. And I definitely want to put something of this on up. For sure.
Yeah, cool. I'll add some more.
Beast. Thanks, bro.
Respect, bro.
Speak to you soon, yeah?
Yep.
See you later, man.